I like money, and I'm not ashamed to say so, although it sounds unfeminine and brash. The pound, the franc, the Yankee dollar, and the peso. The language doesn't matter if it's all hard cash.
In these uncertain times, when grandparents are dropping like flies, unemployment is at an all-time high, there's no food in the grocery stores. You can't even find toilet paper to wipe your own ass. And people are being tear-gassed in the streets. We here at Ruudi Land seek to be as culturally and societally as relevant as ever. That's why we're reviewing 1972's The Day the Clown Cried, written, directed, and starring Jerry Lewis, a fun little Holocaust romp about a crazy, wacky clown escorting little Jewish boys to the gas chambers.
Everything you just said was wrong. And I have to call you out on it for your chicanery.
Wait, you mean I watched the wrong film? The wrong long-lost film?
Yes.
Oh,
although, shit. I wish we did watch The Day the Clown Cried.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. But we will in 2024. When the Library of Congress lets us watch it.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah. Jerry Lewis, in his will, he gave the reel to the Library of Congress. They have it, and he said they had to wait till 2024.
What an oddly specific year.
Yeah, I think it'll be 5 years after he died. Oh. Or no. I think it'll be around 8 or 7.
Still.
Yeah.
We saw a film that as soon as it began, my only recourse was to say,
Isn't he lovely?
I like people who like animals.
Oh, I love animals.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Directed and starring Peter Sellers, Mr. Topaze, or in its American release, I Like Money.
Yeah.
Oh my God. They might as well have called this movie, at least the first half, well, actually the entirety, French Dandies.
French Dandies. Yeah, well, that would have been an interesting title. Yeah, this movie was drier than a box of shredded wheat in the Sahara Desert.
Oh, to say the least.
So
it had some good moments. There were a couple of the jokes that, well, I didn't laugh or chuckle. I thought to myself, oh, that was at least mildly amusing. Other than that, it's like my dad would watch TCM movies, except the movies they usually play that are just god awful. This was one of those god awful ones.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem with the movie, the main plot is about, this kind of goody two-shoes teacher who gets fired, but that doesn't happen until 48 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is like Jurassic World, man. Halfway through, they just changed what the movie was.
Yeah, it wasn't very cohesive, and especially in the second half, I felt like I was getting whiplash because everything just was changing immediately.
I welcome the second half because then at least some interesting things happened.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It's just that should have happened maybe 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
Start,
They set this whole love story up with him and a fellow school marm at his school that he teaches at. But it's pretty apparent she's just using him the entire time to grade papers or do little tasks she doesn't feel like doing.
Yeah, we have just an excruciating long scene of them talking about red ink and them going between classrooms. It's it makes a lot of sense that this was the first and only movie that Peter Sellers directed.
Well, I mean, of its time, it would have fit right in, honestly. That's another thing, excruciatingly long scenes in French Dandies. That would be my 4-word synopsis of this film.
It goes on for a while, and it's not a long movie. That's the thing. It's an hour and 37 minutes, But, it feels like it's like 3.5 hours.
Yeah. By the 50-minute mark, I was checking the how much time I had left to go, and my heart sank.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie where, you're checking the time.
If it was, do you think it would work better if like it was given the modern treatment?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I looked on IMDb. This movie has been adapted 12 times. Some in different languages, but there are a few in English. I guess the playwright, I'm assuming he was French. But
Well, his name, I don't recall his name, but it certainly looks French.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's French. It's tough for me because I think it's an interesting concept. We've seen the concept, the good guy who gets brought in and corrupted, and we've seen that a lot throughout the years. And this was in the '60s, but it's done really piss poor. It's sloppy. I mean, the cinematography isn't bad. I mean, I think
that was fine. There was camera movement. There was establishing shot.
The thing that I liked most about it was honestly just because even though the movie's supposed to take place in France, they filmed the movie in England, and the buildings look beautiful, just like the stone road, like the old clothing from the '60s. Like, it all looks great. It's nice to kind of see the time capsule of '60s, England. That only is going to take you so far.
Yeah, you got to inhabit that '60s England with interesting actors and actions.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't really like any of the actors in the movie. I mean, I thought his friend had some good lines. There's a few lines from him that
Alfred.
I thought, was that his name?
No, but he played, if it's a guy I'm thinking of, he played Alfred in a little series called Batman.
Oh, he was the guy in the Tim Burton movies?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I didn't even realize that, but now that you're saying it.
His friend, Tamsi or Tamil, something like that.
Right. Yeah, which he had a couple funny lines about when they were at his apartment. He was saying, because they were talking about the girl, the school teacher.
Ah, so she knows your touch already, eh? I said she already knows your touch.
Only with a pencil.
So I'm guessing that's your favorite part of the film, whenever he was with, not whenever, but certain moments when he was with Peter Goff, Michael Goff.
Yeah, there was another line that he had in that scene where, he was hyping him up, saying how attractive he was, and he said that he had animal magnetism of the eyes. I thought that was that was another good line. I mean, honestly, like, my favorite scene of the movie was the beginning scene where there's all these little kids, and there's this one kid in particular who has like mumps or chicken pox on his face. And he's got glasses.
Were pimples. I'm like, am I crazy, or is that kid way too young to have a fucking face full of pimples?
Way too young to have pimples. That's why I thought it was like chicken pox or mumps or something. And his expression in that scene, I was like, that was the most I laughed, was that opening scene. Just
it made me chuckle as well.
Yeah, that was enjoyable. What were some things that you liked about the movie?
I liked the first scene when the Hungarian wife brings, after Mr. Topaze gets fired, she brings him to be like, a stooge, a bag man, and some corrupt councilman's schemes. There was a couple good lines.
Money isn't everything, but one is nonetheless happy to possess a little.
Well said, well said. We are all in the same position, He's an idiot. I like him. Well, come along. Tell me, have you any family?
No, sir. I am completely alone in the world.
Good, that's perfect. I mean, that's very sad, but that's life.
Yes.
I like that scene.
Yeah, they could have done a lot more with them. It just seemed like that was rushed, because it's like you wasted so much time in the beginning with the school stuff that I felt you could have done maybe more of maybe a little more slapsticky, a little more fun stuff. Did that guy's wife remind you of like Cruella de Vil at all? when you first see her.
Not really, but I could see where you're coming from, like sort of villainous, greedy
Yeah, she had this like
I don't know.
yeah, she had this like spotted coat. She had these poodles and everything, and it's just immediately when you first see her when she comes to the school, and she's like, "Oh, they don't have this is the only playground they have."
This is a chicken run.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I disliked this movie. It had a couple humorous moments, but there's a lot of movies from this time and before where it's like just the way they talk, the things they think that are funny doesn't land for me.
Right. You know, I mean, I enjoy British humor. It's always dry, but this is, I mean, this sticks
Everyone
out.
spoke in soliloquies, it seemed like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's a tough watch. It really is.
Like your dad or my dad would probably like it.
Actually, I watched it with my dad, and he wasn't that big of a fan of it.
My dad, he's a huge sap for those old sappy movies that are just in their time. They worked. It was, what they were making at the time, but God only knows why someone would want to revisit that other than nostalgia.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is if it wasn't for the whole long lost film thing, I don't even know if I would have watched it.
What about it was long lost? Because I figured on IMDb it said it came out in America. They just never released it on VHS or DVD or something.
Well, what happened was, and I looked this up, was Peter Sellers basically, he took every like film reel, every copy of the movie, and he destroyed them. He took them out of the public domain, and he wanted to erase the movie. He hated it because it was a complete critical and financial failure. BFI, the British Film Institute, they literally have the only copy of this movie, and that's how they did the restoration. So this I mean, it was like what George Lucas tried to do with the Star Wars holiday special. Peter Sellers damn near did. So,
and I commend him for doing so.
I mean, I think if you're a massive Peter Sellers fan, it's a curiosity worth, looking at. I think for most people, even if you're curious about older film or just expanding your knowledge, I think you're kind of in for some punishment here. There's no meat on the bone with this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, of its time, I'm sure it would, like I said, of its time, it would fit right in. But like, not many movies from this time interest me. The Killing, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which I've mentioned several times. Things like that, there's something to them. There's a little edge, you know what I mean? And it really helps to stick out amongst the other late 50s and early 60s stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a pulse. You got to have something going on.
Or at least have your comedy be genuinely funny.
Yeah, and like I say, British humor is quite the acquired taste. It's really not for everybody. This especially, it took me off guard because I'm used to British humor, and just sitting watching this, I was like, wow, this is just not working at all. And I see why critics hated it when it came out and why it bombed.
Yeah. I like, myself, I like that quick-witted, snarky stuff too, but there wasn't enough of it.
No,
Not
there
nearly
wasn't
enough of it.
Yeah, no, there wasn't a lot of it. And actually, Peter Sellers in this movie, I haven't seen a lot of his films. Yeah, I mean, he's trying to do something different, I guess.
But maybe he's a little too subdued.
Yeah, listen, directing and acting, that's a lot of stress and I think maybe he was thinking about the camera while he was in scenes and stuff, because he didn't look comfortable to me. That's later in certain scenes in the movie, like even when he gets drunk with the two crooks, later in the film when they're trying to bring him into the scheme.
Yeah.
It just it didn't even seem like he was playing a drunk well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was just it doesn't feel right. It feels like something slightly out of sync. Like they used bad takes or something.
Maybe. Or maybe that was just the best take.
I think, yeah, that's the case. I think that was the best take. And obviously, Peter Sellers wasn't a fan of the film if he tried to destroy every fucking copy.
What Peter Sellers films have you seen?
I've seen Doctor Strangelove.
Obviously, yes.
I've seen the first Pink Panther. Some snippets of the other films.
Does your dear go back? No? Oh. Yes, dear good. I thought you said your dog did not bite.
Is that a snot night talk?
I can't remember or not if I saw The Lady Killers, and that's why I wanted to revisit that film. And I'm sure there's some others I might have seen. You know.
I can think of one clear example where I remember his work. You've never seen Lolita?
No, I haven't seen Lolita.
It's not bad, but honestly, I'd say the only reason to rewatch it is Peter Sellers. He's very, very humorous. He plays one character pretending to be many other people.
Oh, okay. I mean, Kubrick directed it, so there's a reason. You know.
That too.
Yeah.
But it's like this movie. It's of its time. The dialogue, the way things were shot. It's just uninteresting.
Yeah, like I say, you know, it's like, you know, it's a dry box of shredded wheat in the desert. There's not much to it, but I could see this done well. Just the concept, I'm sure maybe some of the other adaptations are good and enjoyable, but I'm not interested in watching those after this. I think this was...
I do have an example of this working. This buffoon who just is super trusting and, you know, always ends up on the wrong end of the stick. You ever see The Life and Times of Tim?
Tonight on 60 Minutes, the Chinese economy shows no signs of slowing. But at what cost to the environment? Then, a one-on-one with Tim, who was raped by a bum behind a filthy dumpster.
What was it like? Anyone that's been raped by a bum knows the drill.
The Life and Times of Tim. No, I don't think I've ever seen it. I think you've brought it up to me before.
Okay. It was an HBO cartoon show. Essentially, This guy, while you're in the moment, his rationale and reasoning seems reasonable. It always blows up right in his face.
So you want to get into spoilers, or?
I mean, sure. I got nothing else going on.
I mean, the only like real big spoiler is obviously, the ending and the massive character change when we just go to 6 months later.
Yeah, they don't. It's just a hard cut.
He has certainly got a nerve. I haven't seen the man for 6 whole months, and now he's late.
It's not his fault if you've been away on a goodwill tour of Africa.
Yeah, and he hasn't talked to me yet. They do that a lot in older films. I revisited Night of the Hunter, and instead of having like a cue card that is, you know, so and so months later, they'll have like an exposition scene to say that time has passed.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that I really dislike about older films. That really doesn't work. But
it goes back to the old adage, show don't tell. But I mean, a cue card that just says 6 months later it's not really groundbreaking or anything, but it just, I don't know.
It gets the job done.
Yeah.
It's less,
cumbersome.
You kind of like, yeah, but it's also like I said before about like Whiplash, because when the scene transition happens, nothing would indicate like, oh, this has been 6 months have passed. Like
maybe they could have had it like I realize filming was a lot different back then, but maybe just have an exterior shot of snow falling.
Yeah, no, definitely something like that would show that time has passed. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that ending scene with before the final scene of him saying, "Oh, you know, I've got the business now" and everything like that. I was like, "Oh, okay."
The lease is in my name. Yeah, it did happen rather. It just okay. So he is running the business for 6 months. He has learned that it's just a big scheme to make the singer's husband, councilman, a shit ton of money. Now all of a sudden, you know what? I want that money.
Yeah. Yeah, he talks about the different figures of, it's 6 million francs for overhead, and then we had 13 million, and then that's 10 million, and all that profit's mine now. It's just like, his mannerisms different, his suit's different, the way
He's got a Van Dyke compared to a full, I don't really give a shit beard.
Right, yeah, his beard has changed. This is supposed to be this kind of like slow, gradual descent of a man who's good turning corrupt. It's abrupt. Like, all these changes in the second half are just really abrupt. We're just like, it feels like we're missing scenes. We're just skipping ahead like so quick. It doesn't seem like it was a very well planned out film.
No. Has he directed anything else that you're aware of?
Nothing by himself. So I looked up that he directed some shorts, and he was one of like 3 directors to direct Fu Manchu movie or whatever. But this is the only movie that he really directed by himself. He was uncredited on that other movie with some other guys. So yeah, this wasn't his forte for sure.
Did you enjoy the headmaster's antics at all?
Honestly, he really grated on me. He was the only one who was like really talking fast in the movie.
Yeah,
And
that's what I liked about him. There was that sort of, like you said, quick-witted British kind of humor, like,
that I will not believe that my grandson was bottom of the class. Will not believe he was bottom of the class.
But, madam, that is a fact.
It may be a fact, but it's inexplicable.
Yeah, he had more energy to him. I mean, I did like the scene where he like is taking shit off Peter Sellers' desk and like putting it in his pocket. It's like stealing his pencil, and he's talking to him about, why is this?
That bothered me a little bit too. He stole his pencil right in front of him. I mean, it can go to show he's so meek and so, all right, he's my boss, I better not say anything, but you stole it right in front of his face.
Yeah, but I mean, it's his boss. Like, what is he going to say?
That's my pencil.
That's my pencil, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was another line that I thought was funny, but this was another scene that just went on way too long, was when the grandmother, who has like 3 or 4, she has all these kids in the school, and she wants him to change the grade. That scene went on forever, but there was a funny line that Peter Sellers had, he's like,
I'm not saying his life is threatened by any serious illness, no. All I am saying is, madam, that he probably has adenoids, or tapeworm, or some hereditary illness.
Oh.
Or perhaps all 3.
That was that was funny, but it's just, there's not a lot there.
It's the ultimate microcosm for this movie. Sure, there's a couple funny lines, but it goes on for a solid 5 to 10 straight minutes, I think.
Yeah, that was a scene, and there wasn't a lot of edits either. It was just kind of like, sure,
like
we would
60s and 50s movies. You're standing on the set, we go through the entire scene, and then we're done.
Yeah, and there were a few cuts to the Baroness's face, and she kept making wide eyes, and I was like, okay, we get it. But I mean, the only other thing that I could really think of talking is the very ending, where the movie gets really sad, actually.
Yeah, it goes from 60s comedy to a reflection
like a 70s
on
film.
wealth and greed.
Yeah, and it's that was a really well done scene. Like when his friend hugs him and they're talking, and then immediately you can kind of tell just the way Peter Sellers is talking, there's something wrong. And the body language of his friend just completely changes.
Yeah, he looks like he just got told Peter Sellers has cancer or something.
Right. And Peter Sellers almost looks at him like a peasant, really. And
yeah.
He's so ashamed of him, he just walks away. What I wanted to bring up about that was, actually, I was watching with my dad, and when it ended, I was like, wow, that's really sad. And he said that it reminded him of a Bible verse, actually. Matthew 16:26 from the New King James.
Oh, I know it, but why don't you refresh our listeners?
Yeah, we have a scholar here. But what it is, for what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? And I And when my dad told me that, I was like, wow, yeah, that does encapsulate kind of what I'm sure the play is trying to do. And I thought that's a powerful
Yeah, I
line.
like the ending. I liked that it went serious. I like that when comedies do that. I think I've said before, Grand Budapest Hotel, I love that ending because amidst all this craziness and Wes Anderson humor, all of a sudden, oh, it just got real. We're in a European fascist state, and this guy may seriously be injured.
Right. Yeah, that was nice, but I think with Budapest, it earns that more, whereas with this, it was like, that's a good scene, but this movie didn't earn that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because his transition went from I'm a blithering idiot who's just honest and nice and kind to I've been gone for 6 months. Well, I'm taking the business, Cecil.
Yeah, I have everything now, and what do I need everything? I have money. It's like I said, that was a good ending, but it could have been, this could have been a great film. It could have been.
That's what I'm thinking in the beginning. If there was like a modern, again, I have not seen any of the other adaptations, but if it's given sort of the modern treatment, this could have really, really, rocked your cocks collectively.
Yeah. There's lots of examples of someone who's, they've gotten the money and then they've lost it all at the end. So is there anything else you're feeling on the film? Any more feelings or no?
I like Money Song. Why, God, why?
I know everyone says cringe and it's overused, but I literally cringed when that was going on. That was a brutal song.
It was like a Disney animated movie, man.
Yeah.
It was befuddling, to say the least.
Yeah. Rough transitions, that's for sure.
So I guess I can answer this for you. As far as recommendations, stay the fuck away from this one.
Yeah, this is definitely a pass for me. Like I say, I guess if you're a massive Peter Sellers fan and you're a completionist, and you have to see it. But besides that, I don't see any point in watching it.
If you're in your 70s or 80s and you remember movies like this from your youth, yeah, go nuts. Other than that, there's no reason to visit this.
Yeah.
I liked when the blackmailer comes to him and says,
"Come, sir, make an effort. Kill yourself."
Now?
Certainly, the sooner the better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but there was... that goes back to even more awkward scenes, because, like, when the blackmailer is in, like, the restaurant and they're in the phone booth with Peter Sellers, and then he says to the blackmailer, he's like,
"One more word. Would you do me the favor of leaving us backwards?"
Why?
Because if you turn your back on me, I couldn't resist the temptation to kick your behind.
Yeah, and that was just like, that was like a fart in church. It's just like this.
That's 50s and 60s movies for you, man. That was humorous back in the day, or at least intimidating or cool.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's a rough one.
No, dear fans, don't watch this movie. Instead, watch the entire back catalog of Ruudi Land and its wonderfully poorly edited crap. Arrivederci.
Though it's usually presented as the root of all unhappiness and strife. Well, I should care if millionaires are troubled and tormented. I hope I have that kind of trouble all my life. I like money, and I simply have to quarrel with a certain slogan I do not believe. You cannot